Hello everybody, my name is Blue, and we are returning back to an old project, Tiny Island Resort. Today with the greatest island of them all, Great Britain. Kidding, of course, although I am a bit biased. No, jokes aside, we are doing Great Britain, and at least a part of it, since it is quite a big island, and I have planned a large selection of animals to go on Great Britain, since it does have quite a nice selection of animals, especially with the new Farmyard Animal Pack. Since I haven't done any content on the Farmyard Animal Pack before, I think this is a good opportunity to add some of the animals, not all, but at least a good selection of the animals can be added to the island of Great Britain. And today we will start with the north side of the island, which includes the Scottish Highlands, aka everything basically in Scotland, but we'll be focusing on the Highlands since that's where the Highland Cattle live, or actually originate from, because obviously now they're all over the world. But yeah, that's where this Highland Cattle originates. And then if you go more south to northern England, we'll add some badgers and also a nice pond with Mute Swan. So that's basically the program for today. But there will be more animals throughout this island, which we will be adding in later episodes, because it is quite a big island, let's be honest. And I have planned it to be quite big. But we will be adding the Tamworth pig and the Sussex chicken in the south of England, together with the red deer and possibly the fallow deer. And then also in Wales, we will be adding the sheep species that we have in the game. I forgot the name of the specific sheep, but yeah, it's a Welsh species, or like a Welsh. Is it a species or is it a breed? I'm not sure. I'm not quite familiar when it comes to farm animals. So my apologies. I assume it's breed and not its own species. But yeah, the Welsh breed we will have in Wales, obviously. But for now, to start this island off, we are building a typical British boathouse. Whatever you can call typical. I'm not sure. I don't think it's typically British per se. It could be any European boathouse, really. But it is definitely all the buildings in this whole zoo, actually. All the buildings are always inspired by local architecture. If you're not familiar with Tiny Island Resort, if you haven't seen any of like the previous episodes, basically it's a zoo that we started during the Oceania Pack update, and it includes miniature versions of real islands, basically. And the aim is to have a zoo which is only accessible by a boat tour, and you basically hop from island to island, and you can visit, or you can discover different animals that live on those islands, which makes sense. But also I aim to try to make the island not like a recreation of the island, but try to add iconic things that make the island recognizable, if that makes any sense. So that's what we will be doing for Britain as well. So I'm building a typical British boathouse for the station, since this is an island with a station. Not all islands have stations, to be clear, because obviously a lot of these smaller islands, it's just like a bypass, like you just go past with the boat, you can look at the island. Then some of the bigger islands will have a station, and you can also walk around on the island. But all the animals are viewable by boat, basically. And I'm doing this explanation again since it has been quite a while that I've been on this zoo. But yeah, for this big island, I wanted to try to do something iconic for each country in Great Britain, or at least, well, Great Britain, the island, since I'm not including Northern Ireland. It's not the UK, unfortunately. It's just Great Britain. I'm trying to build something recognizable, not specifically recognizable, but at least iconic for that area. And this is why today we're doing the Scottish Highlands, which is quite a broad theme, but it is recognizable after all. It is the Scottish Highlands, which will be inhabited by the Highland Cattle. And then also for a teaser, we'll go down into northern England with the badgers, which will have a smaller enclosure, which is actually inspired by some real zoos, which you'll see in the future. Yeah, in the meantime, I've finished the, mostly, but for the most part, I've finished the boathouse, and I'm also adding like a shade for the, queuing bit for the tour. which is inspired by just some English gazebo stuff. I just googled English gazebo, and that's what I got. So, so yeah, it couldn't really be more basic than that. It doesn't have to be complex all the time, you know. It can be quite simple sometimes. So yeah, it's a simple English gazebo. You know, wood with like the slated roof on top. It's just so if it rains, which is, you know, quite common for England. If it rains, then you have a shade as you are queuing for the ride to hop over to the next island. And then right next to the gazebo, or next to the boathouse, that small area that's prepared to the left, that's where the badges will be as well. For the gazebo, I'm using mostly Planet Zoo pieces for the roof, I think. Although I think the beams are from South America. Yes, I think those are the South America beams. And then for that trim on top, I'm using those thin, like stone pieces that we got from the tropical pack. I haven't used them a lot, but they're actually really useful for doing very small extra details, since it's a really thin piece and it's recolorable, so Flexicolor is always great. So yeah, you can color any color you please. And then, as you saw before, I used those hanging lights. Those are from the conservation pack, if I remember correctly. I tried to hide the elevated path as much as possible because I kind of hate the fact that we have trims. I'm not sure if it's just me, but the fact that elevated paths require a trim, which just makes it a slightly more of an unnecessary hassle to try and hide them. If they lacked a trim, it would have been way easier to make something interesting looking. I honestly gave up for this one, and I just used like a default railing for the other path, since I just couldn't be bothered. That's the truth. And then obviously then that has to be a fence, because I'm using invisible queuing path, so I'm trying to make a British looking fence, I guess. A simple wooden like farmyard fence sort of thing. I ended up making a custom one using Planet Zoo pieces, I think, just only the Planet Zoo pieces. So if you don't have any DLCs, it's very easy to create something like this as well. Just to border the paths, because I think personally when I do the custom queuing paths, although I don't really use queue a lot, but when I do use the queue paths for like rides, I never use the actual paths available. I always do the invisible one, because I just feel like the queues look so ugly in the game, and it's not I mean, it's a bit of a critique, but it's not like, the problem is that if you look at real queues, they never look like the ones in the game, at least in my experience. I could be very wrong, but the way they are like interconnected, first of all, if you use like the railing from the queue, then you always have this sort of like double fence when they go when they overlap, I guess, if that makes sense. Whereas if you do a custom fence, then it feels more like how it would have actually been built. I know I'm really ranting or rambling about queue paths, which may be a bit boring, but I just wanted to, I guess, talk a bit about how I do my queues. Now, as I mentioned before, the badger enclosure is inspired by a real zoo. It's a zoo in Belgium called Plankendaal, and they have a European section, which is not common when I go to zoos, that they have a European section, or at least in my experience. And if they do, it's mostly like farm animals. But this zoo has a European section with beavers and badgers, and it's really fun, and they've made it all like European themed with like little European bands and stuff, and it's really cute. And I thought I'll try to go lean into that theme, since that's like the only kind of exhibits I could find when I was going on Pinterest or on Google looking for inspiration for badger enclosures, because I was a bit clueless when it came to badger enclosures, because I wasn't sure how a badger enclosure would even look like. And I did, most of it is kind of my imagination, but for that like front bit with the building, I did use some inspiration images, and it's completely fine, by the way, to use inspiration images. Like, all famous artists use any sort of imagery or reference in some way, shape, or form. Like, you can't just, I don't know, you can't just think of something completely out of your mind. You need some sort of reference, right? So basically what I'm getting at is that it's completely okay to use inspiration for anything artistic, really. Some fun and interesting things about badges. Now that we're working on badges, I think I've never talked about badges before, but badges are, interestingly enough, which is quite fitting for this island theme, they are the biggest predators on the British island, on Great Britain. So that's quite an interesting little thing there. So I guess it will also be the largest predator here. And also, if you didn't know already, a badger is a mustelid, which means it's from the same family as weasels and otters. The European badger is, in my opinion, the more favourable of the badger species. I know there's like always a debate of like, do you prefer the European badger or the American badger? But let's be honest, the American badger looks like it would probably kill your family, whilst the European badger looks like it would enjoy a nice cup of tea with you in a nice Sunday afternoon. So yes, I do prefer the European badger. It just looks more friendly, and it don't deceive. And it doesn't mean that they are, because I'm sure just like the American badgers are equally as vicious, or maybe equally as friendly, you know? Maybe the American badgers are just being misunderstood. So show love to all badgers, including the American variety. But now that, we'll move over to the next part of the island. In the meantime, we'll come back to the badgers later. For now, we are going to make a large fenced-off area, which is for the Highland Cattle. Because the idea, I really wanted to make this part of the zoo feel like an actual farm area that would actually be like a real thing in Scotland. So just a large plot of land somewhere in the Scottish Highlands, or just somewhere in Scotland, doesn't really matter where. Just basically fenced off. Fence nicely follows the rolling hills and the terrain, and it's full of cows, basically. So that's the idea. So that's why it's not the most complex build. It's quite simple, but it's very naturalistic. It feels very cool, in my opinion at least. And I think it really fits the Scottish Highland theme. So it's obviously a bit of an unnecessary finicky work to like build the fence and have it all aligned with the terrain, but it was worth it in the end, because I think it actually does look like a little farm area in maybe Scotland, since that is the preferable area for the Scottish Highlands. As obviously, with most of the other builds, I do add flags of the respective islands. In this instance, I'm doing the Scottish flag and the English flag in their respective areas. I was going to do the Welsh flag. I might still do the Welsh flag, but the problem is that I have no idea how to get a dragon in this scale into the game. I might have a bit of a little go at it, see how I can reproduce a dragon, but there is a chance I'll just have a simplified version of the Welsh flag, just for the sake of, well, simplicity. These flags are not mine, they are from the workshop. I found the English and Scottish flag and a whole bunch of other flags of the world on the workshop. I forgot the actual OP, the actual uploader of this workshop item, but they're very talented, clearly, because they made the whole selection of really cool flags. But I did make the Union Jack myself by using those two flags, since, you know, the Union Jack is kind of already a mixture between Scotland and England with their flags, so it was quite easy to use those two flags to make the Union Jack, which I added the Union Jack at the boathouse, which kind of represents the entire island, kind of. Even though like the UK flag should also include Northern Ireland, but we'll just ignore that little detail. I'm sorry, Northern Ireland, or any of you who live in Northern Ireland watching. It's just that Northern Ireland is not an island, so it's really as simple as that. I could have done Ireland as its own like little country. But I think like the wildlife in Ireland is, at least with the animals that we have in the game, the animals in Ireland are exactly the same as the species we have in the UK, like in the rest of Great Britain. So I don't think it really has any point. It would be a bit stupid to add Ireland as its own little island, even though it is a really beautiful island. Let's be honest. Yeah. In the meantime, I'm building a staff facility to hide the staff facilities. It's really that simple. But yeah, so I'm building a staff facility which is inspired by a small farmhouse in Rochdale. That's in Northern England, so it's with the location here in the island, Northern England. But yeah, so it's a small farmhouse in Rochdale, and it's the real inspirational footage that I used, or like the image that I used. It's a real decrepit little like farmhouse. It's about to fall apart. This version, although also a bit overgrown, I have made it less sad looking. I'm not saying that the real life version is sad, but it looked like it was about to fall apart in 1 million pieces. So I made this one a bit more new, if you would like to call it new, I guess. Although I did want to add a lot of details to it, like greener colours and moss decals to show that the building has aged. As you can see now, I'm using a lot of the moss decals. I haven't really used moss decals all that much, but I feel like in this British setting, the green really helps elevate the whole feeling of the European sort of feel, I guess. Does that make any sense? I think when I think of European nature, I think of like very bright green. Maybe that's just my my view of Europe. I could be very wrong, you know. But yeah, that's basically a very simple little like staff facility, basically. And then for the entrance, where you exit the boathouse, you basically, the first thing you see is this pond. I wanted to make something nice looking because when I was comparing it to the Papua New Guinea island that we built in one of the previous episodes, the first thing you see there is like a welcome to Papua New Guinea sign with like the Oceania stone wall behind it to make it look a bit nice. For this, I wanted to do something more naturalistic, so I built a pond, some trees behind it, and then eventually I also added mute swans to roam free so that they have a little pond to sit in as well. But I thought I think it would feel quite fitting to have mute swans roaming free around the island as well. So they will be roaming around the entire island eventually when it's done. I wanted to make the pond very pretty and green, a lot of flowers and stuff like that. And then eventually also a sign, just like with Papua New Guinea, to welcome the guests to the island. And I'll probably be doing that for all the different islands in that you can visit in this zoo. So that's basically Greenland, and then 2 big Indonesian islands, Borneo and Sumatra. They'll have a sign like that probably as well. I think it's just so it's a coherent theme throughout the zoo. But yeah, we're past that now. We're going to decorate the Scottish Highlands. I've put the animals in, as you can see, the Highland Cattle, which I must admit they look really cool. Even though I haven't been the most positive about the pack, I want to change my mind. I am quite a fan of a lot of the animals, and I'm glad that the pack exists because I think it's very good for petting zoos, for example, which is the main reason they added the pack. And I had a really fun time decorating the Scottish Highlands. It was a bit of a challenge at first because I thought, when I looked at images, there's no trees, nothing like that. It's just grass. That's all it is. It's like grass and I assume moss. So I placed down all these different. I forgot what the name of the grass is, but I think it's like leaves something. I placed on all these like leaves, feeling like that works, you know, that gives that sort of Scottish Highland feeling. And then I realized there's also the Yorkshire grass, I believe, which fit really well as well. So I end up replacing a lot of these leaves with Yorkshire grass, which I'm glad I did discover afterwards because it does look better. But yeah, I wanted to add trees, so I did add a couple of saplings because I couldn't help myself. Because I love placing down trees, but yeah, I had to resist with this one because otherwise it would not feel, it just wouldn't have that Scottish feeling. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like if you Google Scottish Highlands, there's no trees, nothing. So yeah, I tried to keep that sort of aesthetic. Also, if you've noticed, the other side of the fence is quite barren. There's just nothing there, just the whole area of the island that's just nature. There will be animals there in the future, although I won't be spoiling what, because they may or may not be kind of connected with some of the other islands nearby. So for now, it will be empty, but I have a cool animal in mind to put on the far north side of the island. That's basically most of the speed build done. What the remaining things is just doing some extra details and enrichment items. So I hope you enjoyed the speed build. I hope you enjoyed me being back at Tiny Island Resort, because I think I'll be working on this zoo now mainly. I really want to finish this zoo now as well, because I'd like to check another finished zoo off of my list. That would be really nice. So I hope you enjoyed the speed build, and there will be a little walkthrough at the end of this episode. So I'll see you then. Bye. Right, so welcome to Great Britain, with the swans welcoming us to Great Britain. And oh, actually, I think that's quite faulty. I just realised that the water's not deep enough for the swans to. Oh wait, no, never mind. No, wait, no, yeah. The water's not deep enough, I think, for the swans to swim. So I should probably adjust that. But that aside, welcome to Britain. Obviously, the colours are of Great Britain, the UK. And yeah, so this is the boathouse, quite simple. I might detail it more a bit in the next episode, but yeah, obviously the Union Jack over there as well. Very cool. And if you continue to north of Great Britain, we make our way over to the Badgers, and as you can see, a nice little European sort of medieval looking hut. If that's what you want to call it. And there they are, the badgers. Look how cute. Oh, the badgers are actually one of my favourite animals, so now you know. And yeah, so really big fan of the badgers. But oh yeah, we can also go inside if you want to. I don't think there's much to see inside. If they want to have a little nap, they can. So yeah, but I think the real kind of centerpiece of this build, at least so far, is the Scottish Highlands with Highland Cattle. They are smaller than I remember them being for some reason, but yeah, so I really thought they were bigger, to be honest. Yeah, so this is the Highlands. It looks, I guess it's not too like special really, but it feels, at least in my opinion, my humble opinion, it feels like it is actually the Scottish Highlands. Especially the Scottish flag does help, let's be honest. It does help a bit. Here we can walk along this nice little promenade. Nice nature walk, we all love a little walk. And you have a nice outlook as well on some of the other islands that are currently unfinished, but eventually will be inhabited with loads of pretty animals. And then there's a little part up here as well, which is completely uninhabited, but I do have a plan for some animals over here as well, so don't you worry. And yeah, so Scottish, well, the Highland Cattle, they have a little beach as well where they can drink. I think all the animals have access to water, so it just makes it easy for me, so I don't have to lace down a drinking bowl. So, but yeah, you can, if obviously it is like a walkthrough, like interactive, I don't know what they're called, but yeah, it's like a walkthrough exhibit, so you can go off-road if you want to through the falling nice Yorkshire grass, and you can pet one of these beautiful cows if you want to. Aren't they pretty? They are really pretty. But yeah, that's basically this build over with. Next time we might continue Britain with the south side of the island. Or another island, who knows. If you have any suggestions, you can definitely put it down in the comments. But for now, that's it. And yeah, I hope you enjoy this speed build and this walkthrough. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.